Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome, welcome. You got no idea how happy I am about this dude right here who's going to be sharing with us his lessons learned. It's been a long time coming, and I know, Jim, you've been working on this PMP stuff for a while. So why don't you give us an intro and let us know why you even wanted to take this exam in the first place?
Well, a few years ago, I had a boss. I've done a lot of project management over the years as an engineer, and I'm really good at it, honestly. And I've been told I'm good at it, but I just, never pursued the PMP. So that was part of it. And then I had a boss tell me, hey, you're really good. You ought to pursue this. Well, I kept that in the back of my head, but he was also the boss that said I probably ought to, he actually made me a successor for an engineering manager as well. And I never took that position at the time it was offered, but anyway. So PMP, back then, I decided here, it's kind of a long story short. I've gotten into my early 50s and things they're looking good financially. And I said, you know what, boy, I've had a dream since I was like early 20s, like, these big, computer geeks out west, they can retire 27, 37. I always thought it'd be nice to take a mid-career break. So I started out doing that, and I interviewed along the way and so forth, but I really wasn't getting bites, and I could see that, I wanted to get into project management, kind of reinvent myself a little bit, get out of the day-to-day grind of being in manufacturing and tooling engineer with metal stampings. It's structural metal stampings, and it's automotive, and it's just boom, 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 boom. We got to keep going. And I wasn't using everything I could use anymore. I wasn't using my fullest abilities, and there's a lot of so anyway, there's just a lot of things that I could do to give back. For about 30 years ago, they decided it just kind of happened all across the U.S. You can't hear about it out. Skilled trades, they stopped using apprenticeship programs. It was a cost savings thing, and now we're in need of skilled trades every, from electricians to plumbers to, tool makers, so forth. So anyway, that was another thought. Boy, if I could, get in a leadership position or a project management position or whatever, I might be able to give back, tell them what I know, and pass it along. So that was one of the reasons for PMP.
Gotcha, Jim. Jim, can you move your phone a little bit closer? You seem to be a bit far away.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did kind of hide it there. That better?
A bit better, yes. So thank you very much for that. So let's go to a little slide deck here. So you've told us why PMP, and I know you worked very hard leading up to the course, and there's a plethora of things you did. So do you want to tell us any of the things that you did leading up to the online course with Praizion, and how the preparation was for you?
Well, I started with, a college, a university, because I thought getting an accredited certificate was going to be a good way to go. But, basically it was more training on application. We actually worked on a project as a group, and then we went through and stepped through the project. And with that, we ended up, basically stepped through the project, and then we were done. There was like, okay, we'll have another 2-day class later on to help you pass the exam. And so I decided, well, okay, and I ended up taking a contract job then. And of course, COVID came along and shot that one out. 10 weeks later, it was a new project, a new development project, and so anyway, here I am out again, and I think, okay, well, this is giving me plenty of time to continue with the PMP. So I started back into self-study, and of course, I took a few months it was summertime, so I took some time to enjoy it as well. But about September of that year, or last year, I decided I better get back into this, and so I started hammering it heavy, and I started going through some things, finding some things, what I thought I needed, and I stumbled across a few other YouTube videos, and finally stumbled across yours. And I think it was actually when I got into Praizion stuff that it was like, oh no. I am going to have to do a lot more than I ever thought I was going to have to do. They never really mentioned it in the class, and so I guess that's where we're sitting at.
Right. Oh, that's an interesting story. Well, I'm glad that you found us on YouTube. So, Jim, I have a confession to make. That email that you sent me that had the very intricate breakdown, I'm wondering which email I've got it in. I've searched. Do you, by any chance, have that to hand somewhere to share on the screen? But if not, no problem. I'll just keep searching while we talk. I'm sure I'll find it before we get to the end. But I wanted folks
Well,
to
I
see.
had it on the iPad.
Oh, on the iPad.
Let me see now. I got, let me see if I can get out of here. I can go to the PC though now.
Okay.
Looks like this let me operating with that anyway.
Because that was just one mind-blowing, collection of work right there. And it was so impressive, what you did in your preparation. And I wanted folks to see it because I don't think folks will get the true picture of how far you went without seeing that image.
Sorry.
A picture's worth 1,000 words. So,
as far as the template, or
like your whiteboard, how you broke down.
Okay.
Yeah. Can we share that? Why don't you go ahead and hit the green button and share? And folks, what you're going to see is the enormity of work that Jim put into this process. He was a student of the process. He went through the process. He didn't cut corners. He was very meticulous, going through every process, every tool, technique, input, output. And guess what? Roy's agile stuff, he drank the entire gallon of Kool-Aid. And I knew he had, because I had been seeing the work he was doing on the system. So awesome. Let's
see. Do I have, am I sharing?
Not yet.
No,
the green.
Okay, I switched to the wrong Jim there. Okay, let's see here.
It's going to be the green share button. And then, oh, you're trying to share your camera, or are you going to do that, like share the screen? Which one?
Oh, can I do this clear?
Yeah.
I haven't done that.
Yeah.
Before.
So down below here, Jim, somewhere there, you got a green button. Click on that green share button, and then just share
photos.
You see it?
Is that what I should do?
No, we don't want you to stop sharing your camera, but you've got share screen, which is a green button with an up arrow. If you click on that, it'll then ask you which monitor do you want to show, or which view do you want to show? Do you see that?
I've got iCloud Drive, photos, screen. So you want me to share the screen, you said?
Yeah, the actual computer where you've got that image that we want everybody to see right now.
I was just going to put it up to the other computer. I was having I was trying to do this by myself, and I think this is where I started getting involved with you. I was confused where things went to. I had a big flow chart. You're basically a router, showed all the different knowledge areas and processes, and kind of had those grouped together. And that's where these little cutouts or these little labels came from. Actually, I cut them out of that. And my wife actually works in a graphic design sign company, and so she ends up printing this stuff out for me, poster size and so forth, laminate it. But I ended up cutting this one down to use it. So it's got all the IT knowledge areas and ITTOs and processes in there. And what I did is, okay, I ended up like, okay, I don't understand where this output is going after it's, we're processing it in this knowledge area. It looks like it's going back to, say, project management, and integrated, well, what's it going back as? I don't see it listed in there. And so that was really a lot of confusion for me there to begin with. So what I had done is I wanted to do this to try to understand a little better, and then I ended up finding you, and I found your PMP exam vision book, and
Yeah.
I ordered that, and the pages in that, you know, you just had to, and I don't know if you went through with the students so far you've got now, but
I actually
um,
haven't. I try not to sell too much, but it's there on the website. Have you got it there to hand, Jim? You want to show folks what it looks like? Do you have the
well,
PMP
there's the
exam
book,
vision? Honestly, what you
and
did here is just amazing. I'm looking at every tiny little
I mean,
intricate bit. Oh, that.
so what?
Let's take a look at that again. There you go. That's
So
oh
what I
wow,
did was,
you got even the numbers. Wow.
yeah, I
Wow.
put, you know, I think I told you one time, it's, you said you don't need to remember the numbers, and it's like, well, the numbers are easy for you to remember. That was easier to remember where some things went for me than the actual word and phraseology. But
Wow.
so what I did is I took some of your individual processes there, and from the different groups, and I thought, you know, I still need to tie these all together because I'm
Yeah.
not understanding where
Yeah.
things are coming from, where they're going.
Yeah.
So that's what I had this whiteboard out in my barn. I thought, well, you know what, I could put this thing to use. So I'm
Wow.
amazed. When I started it the first day, I did know enough. I said, boy, I don't even know where I'm going to put these things to start with. So I put all the integrated items in the vertically in the center, left to right,
Oh, I see. Okay.
and then the integration steps, and then I just started trying to go from there.
That is a
And
perfect
so,
idea. So these ones that I've highlighted right here, Jim, the
yeah,
middle.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are
Wow.
the
Wow.
developed project management plan integration, you know,
Mhm.
direct and manage project work, you know, that sort of thing, monitor and control,
Wow. How long did
project
this
knowledge.
take you? How many days or weeks?
Oh, I don't know. I think what it did is I basically started out in the morning. Again, I had some time. I don't know if it was a rainy day or snowy day or what,
Hmm.
but I started out. I think it took a couple different days because I had to find some different colored markers.
Wow.
Because I wanted different routing lines and I couldn't distinguish them separately, you know. So I decided I needed more colors. So I went and got some more dry erase markers and so forth,
Wow.
and did that. So yeah, it was probably. I wouldn't be a bit surprised I didn't spend 8 to 10 hours on it,
Oh my gosh.
just to get
Jim,
it developed.
do you still have it up or have you erased it?
I still have it on my other monitor.
Can you do us well, I mean, like the actual board itself. Do you still have it in your barn? Do you still have the actual board with everything drawn out?
Yeah, it's actually out in my garage. I moved it out there to my work area in my garage,
Wow.
and
Could I ask you for a favor to take, I mean, your wife would know how to do this, but if you could take some high definition shots of it, I really want to drive home
oh
a
yeah,
point to our students. And the reason why I'm getting all excited here, just looking at it, it is very easy for me to see the steps, how things lead into each other, where they're from. And I'm just following the arrows and I'm like, it all adds up. It all adds up. And if anyone has truly done what they should, they are going to be able to see all the moving parts and how they add up. And that is why I would love to get a high definition shot of this. You know, for example, I was taking a look at defined activities a few seconds ago, and I could see, oh, here's the milestone list. All right, now this is where the PMBOK geekiness is going to come out. Look at that milestone list. Look at that milestone list. Look at that activity attributes. If you're not
yeah.
getting excited by now, I don't know what you've been doing, folks. You see that? You see that? Look at the activity list and see how they're going into develop schedule. You see that? This is just amazing. This is great stuff. And even down to the minutia level of an RBS and a risk register. Take a look at that. Take a look at your
Yeah.
resource breakdown. I mean, this is what everyone needs to do. Now, I'm not trying to force folks to do this because I know it's a lot of bandwidth. So Jim, give us your rough idea of the the process and how many weeks, one more time, specifically. If you're going to put it in weeks.
Of working on this,
Yeah,
or the
working on this
working
board.
on the. I probably had the board from start to end. It was probably a couple weeks on and off, but before I got it completely developed, because I had to do some extra work there to cut things out and get all the markers and so forth. But I'll tell you, once I got it, I left it there because of the help. I mean, I don't know how many times I went back and just sat there and routed things around to try to remember where some things went. And it was very, very helpful there, extremely helpful. And in fact, the last couple of weeks of my studies, I was out there a couple times anyway, reviewing some things, particularly the work performance or
WPI?
WPI and WPR. Wanted to kind of know where those things went to and how they come in and out there, and I thought those would be valuable for the communication portions of the exam. Yeah, so you see WPI, WPD, WPR.
See what I'm
down in
saying?
that.
See, once you can speak the language, you know where to look. I knew immediately to look over here. I could immediately see WPR coming out, WPR going to managed communications, WPR going to PICC. See that there? WPR going to monitor risk. And I see WPR going somewhere else. And I know that's going to be managed communications or managed team. That's where it's going next. So if I get rid of all of that and I just scroll down a little bit, boom, managed team. This is a good guy. He's got his stuff ducks in a row. You see, this is what I'm talking about. If you follow the process, whatever works for you, I know some folks, they may have to draw it out in a different fashion, but if you follow the process, you'll become a master of it. And it goes beyond just passing an exam, because now this whole psyche is ingrained in Jim. And when he walks into a firm, he doesn't need to go armed with a PMBOK guide. It's already inside him. You see what I'm saying? So I strongly encourage everyone to go through this process. You got no idea how excited I am to see this, Jim. But let's move forward so that we can cover some questions our friends may have. So talking about the exam itself and how it was broken out into people, process, business, what happened when you got into the exam, and how did you perceive the first few questions that came at you?
Well, I guess since I took it twice, there were two different examples of how it was. I guess the days I started the first time, I'm still running. I love my old PC here, so it worked great except for today. But in the technology. But anyway, I'm still running Windows 7. And, to protect the exam at home, you needed Windows 10. So I went to an off-site location to have help with that. And then they started things that I didn't find in their criteria that they started, oh, you can't use that monitor, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I'm scrambling around before the exam, trying to make them happy with everything. And then when I finally get set up to do this, then, I bet it took 45 minutes. I'm just kind of like, okay. And then I was just, okay, I got to slow down and start thinking about this stuff. And it was really hard to begin with to get focused after all of that. So for the second exam, this final one that I passed, I ended up actually, I had forgotten, it'd been a while. And then, so again, this tells you a little bit of how geeky I am. But you can take, they give you a free, I was going to buy Windows 10 and do it as a second operating system on my computer, have both of them bootable. Well, I found out because I had Windows 7 that I could get a free version of Windows 10 for an upgrade. So anyway, that's what I did. I partitioned my hard drives And
Wow.
I've got a Windows 10 step out on the other side. And
How many gigs? How many gigs is your machine in terms of RAM?
oh, it's 16, I believe. So I've never had an issue with the. I run some CAD software on here.
Oh,
so,
really? Huh.
Yeah, you know, I've got basically SolidWorks is what I've been using. Actually, I'm a pilot and an Experimental Aircraft Association.
Jim, did we lose you? Did we lose your voice?
Use something. The people who are building aircraft can use it to design and make some of their drawings and their cutting paths and things like that for things they want to machine. So I ended up being an engineer. I thought, boy, I'm always designing stuff here around home to lay it out. So hey, I've got
that is crazy. So you now have Windows 7 and Windows 10 different partitions, and you took it on the Windows 10. How did that work for you?
Yeah, so that actually worked very, very well. You know what? I scheduled the exam to start at 9:30. I got up that morning and I came in here and started setting things up around 9 o'clock. And actually, it's just about 9:30, 9:35, I was starting to take the exam. It's so much more comfortable to do it here at home than it was to run off someplace. And of course, the first time you learn your lesson
True.
about some of this stuff as well. But I had everything in the room cleaned. I'd watched a couple of videos where people said that taking it home, they had covered up some pictures and stuff. I've got some airplane pictures on the wall and some cloud pictures through the pilot part of it to remind me of different types of clouds, but and a map. And I thought, boy, they're going to say, oh, you got some PMPOs in that map somewhere, and you can cover it up. So everything was sterile in the room. And actually, this, I'm trying to think of what the name of the person that watches it. I never got talked to the person at all whatsoever.
Really?
They never asked me any questions, and I never talked to them. So it's like, I know on the first one, I had started to put my hand over my mouth, the proctor, and I didn't realize I was just sitting there, kind of my elbow on, reading the question, and they said, he came on and said, "You're not supposed to have your hand over your mouth." Okay. Because they think I might be talking in a small microphone.
That is funny.
But anyway, but as far as taking it, the first time or the second time, let's just say, because I had your training and all that involved in it, and I was much more prepared just because of additional time. But I ended up taking your class because of the agile change. That's why I tried to get it in. I took it like 5-6 days before the end of the year, so I wouldn't have to go through the agile part. But that turned out to be a blessing in disguise for me now, just because agile is coming on strong everywhere, especially in product development and so forth. And I've had some big name companies over the last year and a half contact me.
Wow.
And some of them come out and say, "Do you have any agile experience?" So that was one reason why I thought, well, okay, that's one reason I got that PSM.
Nice, congrats. Oh, by the way, folks on the call, they don't know. So Jim recently just became a PSM, and the PSM Professional Scrum Master is under Ken Schwaber's scrum.org. Really awesome one to get. But speaking about the training you got from Roy, did that help you?
Oh, without a doubt. Let me see, the Agile for Professionals course handout you had, that was great. That helped both with the exam, and that gave me a great background for this PSM. And I just ended up basically going back through the Scrum guide pretty heavy before I took it. But that turned out to be a little harder than I thought it would be. I took a bunch of mock tests, and I was getting either 95 to 100%, and then all of a sudden I started taking it, and these questions look more like PMI questions to me. Oh boy! Now they didn't have, they weren't quite as much situational, but they were tougher. They had more to read and so forth. But
well, congrats on that one. That was a nice surprise. I just got your email yesterday, or when was it? And yeah, That's very impressive. So you got done with PMP and you went straight into it. That's pretty impressive. So Jim,
So
talk about.
yeah,
Go
the
on.
students can get the second one. You can get, a second certification relatively easily when you get done with this class now.
Yeah. Buy one, get one free.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
dear.
You were asking me about the testing when I started out. I guess this time I started out, I actually worked better because visually I like my monitor at home. I had the, I've got the video card and driver set up to where, everything is crisp and clear, and, for me to look at. And before I was using somebody else's monitor, and the drivers and things weren't set up, the control setting, display settings were set up to work better for me. I have a little bit of astigmatism, and the little bit bigger the fonts are, the better they are. Not bigger, but better, I should say. The better they are for me. So that helped a ton. I know it did. And so, yeah, being here in my own place and taking a break. But it was really surprising. I took off and started running through that first section, and I was actually surprised I was running ahead of schedule.
Wow.
Because on the first time I was running, I was behind the whole 2 sections of where they had the first game set up.
So Jim, just to make sure everyone knows what you're saying, the first time was not this 2021 exam, because I want people to know, no, it was not the 2021 exam, it was the old exam. So what date, what was that,
before
around
your
December?
Training even.
Yeah, before our training, right.
So Phil's and Roy's training is just phenomenal. That's helped with this. So anyway, where was I at there?
So the exam, like seeing the questions, you said you were ahead of the curve and you were a little bit quicker, but the first time you were behind the curve, right?
Right. Back in December, I was behind the curve. The second time I was ahead of the curve. So I took both breaks during the exam, both 10-minute breaks I was allowed. And, but at the end of the first, I was about 10 minutes early. And it was like, okay, I've got a couple of these I flagged to maybe go back and review, but they weren't a huge deal. I went back and looked at them and thought, I can't waste much more time than this. So I decided, I think I stopped a few minutes early before my time was up, if I remember right. Just saying, well, geez, I might well just stop 5 minutes early or something like that and go and come back. Now, the second round, I was actually right on time. I got done with, the section right about the time the time expired. And so that was, the questions in round 2 were tougher. It was different. It was they were simpler questions. They weren't quite as wordy. And as they got more advanced in this exam for me, the tougher and the more wordy they seemed to get. And, I don't want to say deceptive, but misleading, I guess you could say. The red herrings started popping up, that sort of thing. Then in the third section or third part, I actually had to start rushing at the end. That was starting to tax me a little bit, and I had to think about the questions a lot more, and then actually there's a lot more to read. But I ended up going from there, and I ended up getting down. Okay, I kept looking at the clock, and I said, "Well, I'm doing pretty good, but I got to catch up a little bit." And so I kept trying to catch up, like the last, I would say 30 questions or something, but I never gained on it. And I got down to, I think it was like 8 minutes. I had 10 questions left, and so I thought, well, it's better to put something down. And so I started zipping through them, and I know question
Jim,
9 or 10.
Did you say you had 8 minutes left and how many questions?
10.
Oh my gosh, that's less than a minute for each one. Wow.
Yeah. I was like, well, I'm going to try to do what I can do here. And then what really frustrated me there is, I think I got into 9 or 10. Question 9 or 10 was I selected one answer and I was ready to move on, and it wouldn't let me go on because I needed to select 2
wow
choices. And so
did you have a lot of those? Did you have a lot of select twos, Jim?
Not really. I would say there would probably no more than, multiple selects, 2 or 3, and they would tell you how many you had to select. They give you the number, which surprised me, but I would say maybe a dozen of them at the most.
Okay.
I would guess on that. So what really happened, so then I started rushing through, okay, I think if this is it, I couldn't really think the question through. I just had to kind of think about, okay, if they're not throwing a red herring at me, it's going to be this. And I got down to the very last question, believe it or not, with another 2 answered questions.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm watching the clock, say, okay, I got like 10 seconds here, and I know I got enough time to do whatever, 20. I got enough time to do this one. I can get something. And then all of a sudden I went to select it. Oh man, there's another one to go. I ran out of time on it.
Oh dear. Wow. So right all the way to the end, huh?
Right. That one was.
Wow.
That was a challenge there.
So that's crazy, because at first you were ahead of the curve, you found yourself being ahead, and then by the third part of the exam, you found yourself like trying to catch up.
Right. And I think that was just because of the difficulty level. It just seemed like every third trimester, whatever, it just got tougher on me.
Do you think that was harder? Did it look like they built that in to kind of slow down your speed?
What is the word? I can't think of the word they use, but they say they look at how you answer it. They can make your question tougher, or maybe a little bit easier, worth more points, worth less points. And I think that's what I'm kind of wondering if they didn't do. They just started making, hey, he's doing pretty good here.
They tell us, Jim, they tell us they don't do it though. That was my idea when I got into the exam. Like, these folks have got to know that this risk question was hot for me. They gave me another one. But being an insider as a registered education provider at the time, I realized that, they don't do that, but it looks like they do. But they say they don't. So I'm going to believe them on this occasion that they don't. So.
and maybe it was just because I was getting, I don't want to say tired, but I really wasn't necessarily getting tired, because when I'm in something like that, I really don't get tired. You know what I'm saying? That keeps you alert, keeps you going. Was it mentally draining, Jim? Like, when you were in there, did you feel like your energy being sucked out by the questions? Or no? I would say no. Everybody tries to go in relaxed and calm. And what happened to me is, about a day before or so, I started tensing up. Now, I did get a full night's sleep, but I was just tense as tense could be. In fact, actually, when the exam was over, I think it took me, it felt like 8 hours just to calm down, the tension to come out of me. But anyway, no, I think, obviously, if you get anxious about something and you start getting involved, or you're doing something to occupy your mind, then the anxiousness tends to leave.
Jim, I'm going to very selfishly ask you my questions, because I've been waiting for you to kill this ridiculous test. Now that you have, I want my questions answered. So I know you worked really hard, right? And I know that you didn't just work hard, but you were a student of this thing. You were a student of this thing, the PMBOK guide, the Agile Practice Guide. In all honesty, what percentage of the exam, in your opinion, would you say was Agile and hybrid?
And I'd say, I would just say 80% was Agile, 20% hybrid.
Oh my God.
And, excuse me, I say predictive. 80% Agile, and then 20% predictive. And I think I had it broke down with like 60%. How did I do that? Anyway, I thought maybe it wasn't. I had it written down on that sheet how I the lessons learned.
Yes, yes. So in all fairness, Jim, let me just bring that up because I know our tradition is to have a personal lessons learned. So I want to show your personal lessons learned. So let's just go to that slide that you're talking about. You really broke it down well for us. 80% agile or hybrid, 15% general agile, 15% hybrid, 50, wow, percent Scrum. This is so helpful. So Scrum is the order of the day. And you did tell us in another slide, which is downstream, that you actually looked at the glossaries. You drank the Kool-Aid. You followed what we told you. So you read the Agile and Scrum glossaries, and then you also
Yeah,
read the definitive guide to Scrum. That's why you were all over it.
and I actually, some of this stuff, and especially the PMBOK, everybody knows dry reading. I ended up actually just starting to go through things, and actually, my wife says, "You're highlighting everything." But I was highlighting and underlining some stuff, but as I highlighted and underlined, again, it kept me awake and it kept
Yes.
me alert.
Yep.
And that's what I used to, bring it in. It slowed me down. I looked at it. I kind of started remembering some things, thought about it. That's kind of how I conquered that.
Yeah. That's a
And
good lesson learned because everyone has a different learning style. Jim, I want to ask you a question about this one. And I think you really hit the nail on the head because we have a lot of people who do not know that not all training venues teach everything required to obtain PMP. There's some that leave you hanging, and there's a lot of gaps and holes. But hopefully, what Roy and I did filled up all the gaps and all the knowledge that you needed to know. Would you say that's fair? Was there anything strange and way out that you found on the test?
oh, no. Actually, you guys covered it probably more thoroughly than what I felt I was encountering on the exam. And again, but that's helped me out just this last week with the PSM though.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So, and you don't know what you're going to get on the PMP. So that it was very, very valuable to know all of that.
Right. And you hit the nail on the head with this one as well, because from your testimonial about the PSM and how our course helped you to deal with that, you said some PMP educational resources teach application of project management, which will be ours, while others instruct how to pass the exam only. So both are necessary, and we do both. We teach project management in great detail, and we also teach how to pass the exam. And then you said the certification exam is widely known throughout the professional world and many disciplines as being one of the most difficult exams to pass. Would you say that is still true based on your experience on this run? Was it hard to pass? Would you say it was too easy or what?
I come out of it and it was still a tough exam to pass. And I've thought about it. Was it easier because they changed the exam?
Uh-huh.
Or was it easier because I knew more? And that's the one thing I couldn't. I still haven't come up with. It was definitely easier. I think maybe the exam in itself was easier. I just don't. I think I said also in my lessons learned. It seems like the questions before were more IQ back in December, and they were more EQ in the newer version here in 2021. So,
I love that. I'm going to steal that from you, Jim, and use it. I love it. That's a good analogy. More IQ, process, and following, a lot of mathematical stuff versus EQ. So did you have a lot of formula questions on this one? I know it's somewhere in the deck.
that was actually the only thing I had. I had maybe 3-4 questions on schedule performance index and cost performance index and so forth. And I didn't have to make a calculation because they were asking you basically to look at the numbers and say, are you running ahead of schedule, behind schedule, ahead of cost, but, behind, you're hurting on cost. And it was pretty easy from the answers to pick the one right out. I actually was surprised. I had from even in the one I took in December, they didn't have more of the complex formulas to use. Now they did use some, but the more of the simpler ones, the earned value, planned value, you know, over the division of additions. But this other one, it didn't seem like I really needed it. Of course, I think you said once in your course, and I guess as an engineer, you can almost look at the problem and see the answer. And I guess sometimes you don't have to calculate it. You're like, okay, it's just like those. But, oh, geez, I don't know what that is when I was looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Let's go back to this deck because there's a lot of great stuff that you put in here. I want to cover some of them for my own selfish interest, which probably will be other people's interest. So you did share some really interesting stuff. You talked about how the way I normally, because sometimes I could be a speed demon trying to get through content, but you shared a very interesting piece here, and it could help other people who are similar. So not everyone sees the same, like, you know, I don't see as good as other people do, and not everybody hears the same. But you talked about electronic audio, and you talked about, you know, body language and how stuff like that could be hard to get when you're just reading a book. But through the training with us, seeing Roy and I on camera and all of that, it seemed like the way I am typically slow. Typically, I try to be slow, and some people get annoyed when I'm going at a slower pace. But I really appreciated you sharing that my tone and normal. I like the way you put the word normal because yeah, sometimes I speak quicker, but my normal pace of speaking are great for your comprehensibility, and that helped me as a trainer to appreciate the importance of not being quick or too quick. I know some people, they're like, Phil, you're too slow. But my typical dialect and tone are even paced. And I really appreciated you sharing that. And then when Roy and I did the speed demon immersion, tell me how you coped with that.
Oh, I didn't watch all the videos in the LMS at the end because you guys had sped up, and I've got hearing aids, and but you know, a lot of times I just put the closed captioning on, and I can just read. I've watched entire movies with just closed captioning and on mute.
Wow.
But anyway, you know, sometimes it's just you fill in the blanks. But
yeah,
again, with the hearing loss, you tend to what you got to do. Well, I added that to the notes. You know, you talk about encode and decode.
Yeah.
What we talked about in the PMP and the PMBOK. That's basically a little bit of what I have to do. I have to basically decode it because there's a syllable here, there, whatever that I may miss, and because you know, my hair follicles inside my inner ear aren't there, and regardless of how much hearing support they give me, they can't give that back. And so I sometimes have to fill some things in just by the context and the body language and the tone of voice.
Yeah.
And by the time you get done thinking about some of that, and then you go back and think about what's being said, it's like, you know, they're getting too far ahead of me.
Yeah, and I apologize for that. Let me take blame for that. And Roy and I, we take these lessons learned and we go back. And I really hope other folks are appreciating how sometimes I may be super slow, and it helps some people, but we got to balance it out. And what Jim has shared has helped me as a trainer remember to balance it out. And that might mean more time, Jim. And that takes us to our next one. And just hold on a second, Kylie. We're going to get to that question, but I want to piggyback on what we're talking about because Jim, he shared another helpful point. Plan to spend at least 3, not just any old 3 months, 3 well-disciplined months. So Jim, do you want to explain what well-disciplined could look like?
I mean, I've heard other people say it as well, but well-disciplined typically means you're going to have to study it about every day. You should. You can't just go once or twice a week. You've got to do at least a couple, 3 hours every day. I would say if not more if you can. And then, you know, right up before. I probably just ought to have a vacation week or something. But yeah, there's enough to learn and enough to try to remember and grasp. But I think it's very, very necessary. It was, and I've heard other people say the same thing.
Yeah.
I believe that was true for me, and I've heard other people say you're just not going to rush into it. And so I just wonder how these 2-day classes pass the exam.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's
I
move.
know you.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say, I know you have some people that can just pick it up just like that. You know,
Yeah.
photographic memory and stuff like that. I don't have the photographic memory, so I just have to take some time.
Mm-hmm. This is a point you've already talked about, Jim. The former predictive exam is focused on highly detailed processes requiring IQ, whereas the new agile exam is bent more towards interactive and synergistic theory-based person-to-person. This is splendid. And Jim, let me just shameless request. Jim, I need to share this particular lessons learned with everyone taking the exam, except you object, except you say, Phil, I don't want to help everyone. You see what I did there? Do you give us permission to share this with our wider populace of students,
Oh, yeah.
just like you on YouTube, Jim? Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that? Can we share this with our wider populace? You give us the
Yeah,
permission.
yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Definitely can.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Jim, let's talk about what Kylie's asking. I know you were a student of this thing, and I'm really proud of that board. Honestly, that board, I wish I did that board. I wish I had your patience to do that board. But let's talk about.
Well, you know, I'm an engineer and I've developed a lot of processes over the years, so that's part of why that helped me. I had to see how the thing was routed, and that's what it did for me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I want to answer Kylie's question. Jim, here's a shameless confession. You know, I don't promote other people's stuff for other reasons. So I didn't put everything on your list on the screen.
Oh, I'm sure you didn't. Yeah.
I did a little bit of editing out, and so excuse me. If I show anyone, if I show anyone stuff, I needed to have gone through it. But you know how I am, Jim. But let's talk about the enormity of things that Jim did one by one. First of all, Jim read the PMBOK guide, right? One.
Yeah.
You also
3
have
times.
yeah.
Before.
And did you read it twice, Jim? Twice?
I actually went through it 3 times there.
Oh my gosh. 3 times. Jim, let's talk about 48 hours of learning from Colorado State. That's a lot.
Yeah. I took the class because I heard this was kind of complex, and we focused more on there was actually doing an actual project with like 5 or 6 other people in a group, and we had like 4 or 5 groups, and that collaboration and so forth, took some time as well, but it gave me a lot of experience. Okay, this is kind of like a packet when you got done, that you could submit on a project is what you ended up with, instead of just solely preparing for the test. But I didn't realize at the end of this class that it really hadn't prepared me for the exam. It was just that after I started doing some studying and listening to people and so forth.
Wow. I know that they recommended a book by George Angel that you had to get done. So George Angel, was he one of the trainers there at CSU?
Yeah, he's actually a pretty good guy. I mean, he's probably the best of the trainers. One of the things that I definitely like about your training program is the stability of the trainer. During this 16 weeks, they had 4 different instructors set in. So they change it on one instructor, maybe more for the mathematical, another structure more for the different areas. And George came in 2 or 3 different times for a few weeks. But I kind of wondered if you hadn't heard of him before, just because he seems like he's somewhat well known. But I think he's in the retired age group now.
Interesting. And I saw that they had recommended a book by George and all that. But on top of that, you went the extra mile You developed your own whiteboard. Let me just say this. And look, I'm sorry, shameless, plea to excuse me. We are definitely going to go over time, but it's well worth it because what Jim is sharing is gold, and this is also going to help you in your thought process. So Jim's developing this whiteboard. To be quite honest, this is on par with, I don't care what textbook it is, the best of the best textbooks. Going through this process Jim went through with that whiteboard is tantamount to reading any book, even the PMBOK guide, 5 times. Let me just put it out there. Even though he made the whiteboard himself, the process is worth more than the text. All right. Now, on top of that, he went through all of the PMP exam vision book that I had, the PMP exam prep with Roy. He went through the Agile practice guide. He went through the Agile and Scrum glossaries. Our friend Ken Schwaber, he went through that, and Jeff Sutherland's definitive guide to Scrum. So when you're talking about all the things he did, Kylie, you got to remember this dude, he drank the Kool-Aid and then some, and then he made his own Kool-Aid because what we had, it wasn't enough. So he made his own. He made his
Well,
own
yeah, the
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid man wanted me to buy in bulk, so he didn't have to come every day.
Oh my goodness. So there's a whole lot of things that Jim did. And in my mind, the next question I want to selfishly ask Jim is, this whiteboard that you did, let's be honest, just give me your honest, candid opinion. Do you think it was worth it? Having seen the exam questions now, what would you say? Was it worth it, what you did?
Yes, it was still worth it. I would say the former completely predictive, it was more valuable, but it was definitely well worth it for this one as well. Where it put pieces, I had we discussed it several times. I had a problem understanding the questions and trying to, I always got down to the two, I know it was one of the two answers, and it's like, okay, which one is it? Which one is it? And I'm not a gambling man, and thank God that,
Oh,
every one I select would always be wrong. Every one I select. I never got the other side of this 50-50 there. And so what actually helped, and this was kind of the hard thing for me, it kind of came out from some of your instruction, is how I began to understand it, is if you kind of know where something is written or described in the PMBOK, you can then take and follow the flow back, and you kind of know where the tool and technique is at, or the input or output is at. Right. And I think I put on my lessons learned how some of these terms seem to have synonymous definitions. They were the same, but just they were using a different term in a different knowledge area. And so they made up more tools and techniques, or IDOs, inputs, outputs, because of that. And where I had the difficulty is saying, okay, I need to zero in more tightly into understanding where the question came from in order to pick the right answer.
Right.
That's what I guess it boiled down to. I needed to know where it was at, what knowledge area, what process it was in, to be able to pick the correct of the two answers. And that's where it really helped.
This is all very helpful. And like I said, I'm going to go the full mile with these slides, Jim, because honestly, what you're sharing is helping not only the students, but it's helping us make the course even better. And it's helping Roy and I know how to train better. So this one, you've already shared with us how the first 60 questions were easier. And then they started giving you more and more and more difficult questions. And then you got to the last, the home stretch, and you had 8 minutes and 10 questions to answer, just crazy stuff. So that was very helpful to know. All right, moving on to a few more things you pointed out. No calculation or formula memorization required. Crazy. 3 problems examined, CPI and SPI. That's helpful. I didn't know there were that many for anyone, so is helpful. You got to know your SPI, your CPI. All right. Next one, Jim says 4 matching problems, each required 4 or 5 matches to be made. Can you imagine 5 matches? That's enough to drive one up the wall, because I wasn't expecting that many. Even though PMI said you could get up to 5. 6 questions required selecting multiple answers. Quantity to select was provided. That was helpful, telling the number of things to select. And then you said a few questions logically tested whether you could determine the problem type to be agile, hybrid, and predictive to correctly answer. That's helpful. That's good to know. Most questions identified whether it was agile, scrum, hybrid, or predictive. That's also very good to know, because I know many folks are freaking out. How do I know it's predictive? Well, they'll tell you, right, Jim?
Yeah, a lot of them, some of them you had to figure out on your own, but I was surprised at the number they told you specifically what it was.
All right, this next one, you want to talk about your perception of communications and how should we study it, knowing where they could come from? Should we study more predictive or what?
Well, what I think is valuable there was they tended to focus on the communication section and the stakeholder sections and the human resources sections of the, or not human, but the resources sections of the knowledge areas more exclusively. And so then I saw anywhere else. So the information in those sections was where they grabbed the questions from for the exam, is the way I felt it. Basically, I could see when the way they worded some of them, I could kind of say, okay, that was in that section, like stakeholder, that was probably a communication question. Wow. And that helped me to, zero in on the answer.
This is very helpful. Go on, Jim.
That's where I would focus. That's where I would focus, is be, and with the agile side of it, it is so much more EQ, as I said. You do need the interaction is more critical, and so that's why they focused on that, I believe, between
Jim,
communication.
I gotta say, you just unlocked a key for me in my head, the way I'm thinking of the exam. And what you unlocked is what they could do on the exam is not just focus on communications and stakeholder when it comes to people, but they're going to focus on the people aspect of all the knowledge areas. You just unlocked the door. I didn't think of it that way. So the people aspect of schedule, of cost, of risk, and things like that. That is very, very helpful. You just unlocked the door right there. Thank you very much. Great stuff. All right, moving on here so that folks can get on with their studying. Numerous scope questions were given. Several were written to force a decision between agile scope management or predictive. This is very helpful to know. There were several change management process questions covering agile, hybrid, and predictive domains. Numerous problems focused on one's ability to choose the proper stakeholder or communication management technique. Again, very helpful. There were several risk management questions split evenly between agile or predictive. So you got to go back and read page 90, 91, 92 forward in the Agile Practice Guide, my friends. There were a few charter questions. Some were agile, others predictive. Make sure you read the appropriate place in the Agile Practice Guide that talks about charters, be they team charters, be they charters at a higher level. There were some initiating and closing questions, reaching across agile to predictive divide, but the major areas of focus were within the realm of executing, monitoring, and controlling, with planning following in third. That is, again, very, very helpful. All right. Resources utilized. And of course, Jim has shared with us various things he did. And, I've edited it shamelessly. I doctored it. And of course, the one I want you to hammer on, and, PMBOK guide is one for sure. Agile Practice Guide, your handouts that you got from Praizion, all the stuff you did with Roy and I, make sure you pay attention to that. The glossary, oh my goodness, a definitive guide to Scrum, cannot overstate the importance of that one. And last but not
least, can I bring up one comment there? It was I watched one of your videos where you were talking about the terms of agile. What was it? One of those little ones you asked, you explained it, and what is the term? And you had a few of those going on for a few days, and it was like, I didn't see those in the back of the Agile practice guide. Where did he get these? And then somewhere along the line, you said it or whatever, and so I ended up making my own combined glossary between, the
Wow.
two
Great
to read.
stuff. Yeah. There's some of them that were from the Agile Alliance. Yeah, yeah. Some of them.
Right. That's where.
Cool. And I saw that you mentioned those glossaries and you really did a great job. And honestly, Jim, I can't tell you how happy I am and how proud I am that not only did you jump on the course and take it, but secondly, you got done even sooner than personally I was thinking maybe Jim's going to go for another 2, 3 months. You didn't. You got it done on time. And not only did you get it done on time, you got the PSM done afterwards. And not only that, shameless plug for Jim, because I know a lot of you watching me, you do this. But Jim is different. Jim took the 180 question mock exam. He didn't have to, but he did. But a lot of you, you're bypassing taking that 180 question mock exam. Why are you doing that to yourself? Why are you doing that? Finish what you started, right? Even if you're done with the test, finish what you started and do it. And let's sign up and say, you took a course with us because guess what? Down the road, you never know when you're going to need all of that stuff. So Jim, I'm a Raven fan. I don't know if your missus told you that we've been putting up posts in the group, and I'm always tagging her. I'm like, oh, the poor lady. I hope she doesn't think, why are these crazy people tagging me? I didn't take the exam. It was Jim who took the exam. So
It's interesting. She showed me her Facebook page this morning since I'm using that one, and she goes, "Hey, here's your name for this afternoon." It's kind of like you could tell she felt a little proud about that.
Oh, that's so sweet, so sweet. Well, I'm gonna send you the recording for this when we're done. I wonder if she's gonna watch it, but tell her that you did an awesome job, knocked it out of the park. I want our friends to go ahead and unmute. And if you have any questions for Jim, why don't you go ahead and unmute your phone, your mic, and ask now? He's a great individual to ask these questions. I had to correct myself. I almost said a great resource. But if Roy heard me, I'd be in trouble. He doesn't like the word resource for humans. So go on and ask your questions, anyone.
This is Delita. Congratulations, Jim, on passing your exam. So I actually take my exam May 15th, and one of your suggestions was to, well planning or well training for 3 weeks, something like that. But I'm not sure that I did that, and clearly that's neither here nor there for me because my exam is next week. So I'm guessing, I guess my question is, and to you as well, Phil, would you suggest that I start just taking mock exams at this point and then trying to just look at the areas that I don't do so well on those exams and fill the gaps in that way? Because now it's like going to be a sense of overwhelming feelings because it's so much stuff that I feel like I might not have covered enough. And I'm definitely going to go back to the Agile guide again and the glossary terms and the Scrum guide. But yeah, because I don't know.
I can answer that one. At the end, I had taken enough practice. I finally had gotten enough mock exams taken that I knew where I needed to go with how to answer the questions. But what I decided to do, instead of taking more mock exams the last couple of weeks, and that's what I expected to do, was I decided, you know what, it's going to be better time reviewing, and I did. I spent a lot of time in resources and in communications and in stakeholder and the Agile guide, just reviewing that stuff. And I felt that was going to be more benefit. I would say that will be of more benefit to you if you've taken several mock exams so far and you understand the questions, or and you know how to answer them from the perspective that they're taking them from. Me being an experienced project manager and being a little bit older, I was calling a lot of this stuff from my own experience, and I could see coming from 2 different perspectives, and I didn't know which way to answer. So that's why I had to get into the detail. But yeah, I guess it's depending on you how many mock exams you've taken and how you fared on those. But I spent more time in the books, reading and reviewing things.
I don't think I've ever completed a 180 mark. Don't make that face, Phil. So I'm feeling like I answered my own question. I probably need to start there.
Delita, I'm going to put
Yeah.
everyone on blast. I want everyone to decide to join me, and Delita has to join whether she likes it or not. But I'm going to put together a short, but very concise, and at the same time deep, talking about T-shaped skills session. You'll hear more about it, but I'm going to do it before you exam Delita. And I really recommend everyone join. Don't worry, it's going to be low cost. Don't worry. But I think I need to do this for those folks who are taking the exam soon and haven't done everything. But let me assure you about one thing. You've been through the immersion, Delita, right? 2 weeks. You know more than you think. Trust me, you know more than you think. Here is my only concern regarding mock exams: stamina. If you have not practiced a marathon and you want to go in there, you've not done a half marathon, it's going to be hard. So I would recommend, Delita, that ASAP start pounding on those longer mock exams. I know you're a very family-oriented individual. Well, maybe your stakeholders at home, they have to understand, okay, you're going to be busy. So you need to get some assurance from them that they're cool with it. And honestly, I would lock myself in a room tomorrow. Yes, it's Sunday, but I would lock myself because I know Monday, all hell's let loose. It gets crazy. Work comes in, life comes in. So maybe Sunday, I don't know, is an opportunity for you to pound in that 180 question mock exam. Lock yourself in a room, test your ability to think through 180 questions in 3 hours, 50 minutes. It's going to help you. Honestly, please do it. And then I'll come back to everyone and let them know when this big final review will be. But it's going to be before the 15th. When the 15th? Next week. So it has to be before next week. But I want it to kind of align you. And you might remember I did this for a few people from Jim's course. And I think, Jim, were you on that final review we did? That final was a very rapid review that we did towards the end. Maybe you weren't. Were you?
Yeah, I think, yes, I was. I did. I sat in on part of it. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I had a crisis going on here at home, and I had to go.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'll make sure I do that for everyone. We had a question come in, and the question is from Kylie, and it's about your magnificent whiteboard. And Kylie wants to know, where on earth did you start from? Did you start from Develop Project Charter, like you showed us? Let's go to that whiteboard and see it. I think you said you started from integration.
Well, the integration. Yeah, I started with integration, and I don't remember. Probably was direct and managed work was probably one of the first places I started from, just because of the fact that so many things leaked in and out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see down in the lower left, that was a lot of the point one sections of the PMBOK guide sections. They really, there wasn't a lot of linkage going on between those. And it's amazing to me how that board came out so well. I expected to be racing and redoing it and resticking things, and it went fairly decent.
I love it because it's like a mind map as opposed to like a flow chart. I like the fact that it looks very friendly, and it's got these curves, and it's funny. I didn't even know you used CAD, so maybe that's part of your CAD prowess coming into a freehand approach here. But I just love it. It's great stuff. Yeah. So if you start off here, Kylie, with Develop Project Charter, and then you also look at the confluence happening here of direct and managed project work. I think that is it? I think so. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. And then if you think about the big glob of point ones, as Jim referred to them as, is it there? Are those the point ones? Or is
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the point ones.
Yeah. So if you look at the point ones and how the PMP, the project management plan, feeds all of them, and how you get other things out of them that feed back, you see the arrows going back in. If you start with that, and then you progress. I mean, Jim really got it down, because if you use integration as the confluence, you have a monitor and control project work. You see all those arrows going in there, performing great change control, and then close project or phase. Awesome stuff. Awesome. In fact, this needs to be a blueprint for anyone who means business with a PMBOK guy. Just take this approach, start in the middle, and actually, without Jim knowing, this is very much like the mainline approach, which has integration at the core, and everything else revolves around that. And you heard Jim say, even though the exam was easier, this is still worth it, because it helps you have that grandmaster view and just be even more in control, you know, than ever before. Does that help?
Well,
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
you know, and I think at some point, maybe, you know, PMI will be backtracking a little bit and adding more predictive back into it. I think there's, like you, it should be maybe 50-50 instead of more 80-20 at this point, you know, between agile and predictive or whatever. There's going to be a lot of organization, and predictive still has its place, as you say, as well, Phil. So,
Yeah, I share your sentiment as well. I don't think what they're doing is smart. I think throwing out the baby with the bathwater is a dumb idea, because let's be honest, Jim, a lot of the companies that you're going to be working with, they're not using 80% agile. They're using 20%, 30%, 40, you know? So, oh, with that said, Jim, shameless plug. So for people who may be looking to work with you, like, you know, maybe want to hire you, how can they get in touch with you, and how can they know more about you? Are you on LinkedIn? Is there somewhere they could learn more about you and what you do?
yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. I've tried to link up with you a couple times, but I had some issues for some reason.
Yeah, I'm always hiding like a fugitive, because I know everyone's looking for me, so I kind of hide sometimes.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
So Jim, which Jim are you? Because I'll just connect you right now, and I'll go ahead and I'll just share it. So are you on James or Jim?
Excuse me? I'm under Jim. I was going to, let me see here. On my resume, I've got a.
Oh, that's Indiana. I see you, Jim. I see you. So I'm going to share. So it's linkedin.com/in/Jim-Manon-engineer. And here we go. Let me just share it with everyone, because you never know who's looking for a professional such as you, Jim. I mean, with all this great experience you've got. So that's Jim. Those are the certifications proudly displayed, the PMI, the PSM, and the best of the best, which is from Praizion, Colorado State University as well. I got to put that one in, Jim. You got no idea how proud I am. And I know that a lot of folks could be watching and they're like, I want to hire this guy. So, or I want to consult with this guy, because you're very well equipped, right? And they're all your qualifications and stuff. So, well done.
You know, one of the things about me is, and I had problems with some of the people when they wanted to interview me. They were like, they wanted a specific skill, a specialist. And I'm thinking, but I can provide you so much more. I'm more of a T-shaped person, and not, you know, a paint drip than I am an eye. But I can focus in. I like detail. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. You know, Agile wants more T-shaped, and I think that's a better way to go as well.
Yeah, and it really depends on the job. You gotta, in my mind, you're more lethal in a good way when you got both. When you got both, I mean,
right.
You know, you gotta have skills that are not just IQ but also EQ, and they go hand in hand. And that's what makes you a paint drip kind of a person, being able to dive into different areas. So now you got engineering under your belt, you got project manager, you got agile, you got scrum. My goodness, I mean, anyone. So to help those who might be watching, if your company needs someone who is a solid engineer, got solid engineering principles and practices down, very much aware of CAD and how design and stuff like that works, and someone who is very capable in project management and has got experience, why don't you hook up with Jim, and do some consulting stuff with him. All right. And I will give you a recommendation on LinkedIn as well. Same as I offer to other students who get certified. So I'm mad proud. Well done, Jim. You brought home the
Thank you.
bacon. Praizion celebrates you. The group celebrates you. Everyone celebrates. And thank you very much for spending time. And, you know, let's tell Jen we're grateful that you gave us some of the time today to come share this stuff with us. We're very grateful.
Oh, and I'm hoping that helps some people. I really do. That's, you know, I'm detailed, and I'm glad you kept pressing me to get this lessons learned basically document before I lost it. I'm starting to lose it now. I can tell it versus what I did when I was writing down. So I like writing things like that down because it's always good to go back and review them at some point, and you find out what you did forget and you need it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to send you this, Jim, and you want to share it on your network or with anyone else, you can do that. So thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Well, Jim, I don't want to take any more of your Saturday. I appreciate your generosity. We've gone for about an hour and a half. You are, of course, going to get 1.5 PDUs for your awesome work. Thank you very much. And for everyone else, don't go, or we're going to let Jim get on with his celebration. Are you still celebrating, Jim?
You know, since I started that Lean Six Sigma.
Oh my goodness.
Sure I am yet.
Well,
I wanted to get that yet. I've got to get that one for the area because we're so intense in manufacturing here.
Wow.
And,
who are you looking to get that from, Jim? Which institution?
I'm actually attending an online class at Purdue on that.
I see. Okay. So, I was going to shamelessly recommend my mentor. He's not with us anymore, but Dr. Michael Harry, who was one of the co-creators of Six Sigma with Bill Smith, he's got a phenomenal system, and his wife pretty much took over the Six Sigma Management Institute. She's doing a great job, and they've really got some introspective, deep look into Six Sigma, being that Michael was one of the co-creators, the person that in GE, when GE wanted to bring Six Sigma in, they called Michael Harry, you know, and you know, Jack Welch, he knew that this is the man we need. Yeah, so yeah, good stuff. Just Google Michael Harry and you see all his great work. All right, thank you, Jim. And we'll see you hopefully very soon. Let us know how the Six Sigma goes.
I will do. And, you know, I've had so much experience in quality and that being an engineer over the years. So I've been on Six Sigma teams and that. I just need to get the certification.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I love how the interaction between Agile, PMP, and Lean Six Sigma are. They're all overlap. So
you got it. You got it, Jim. Absolutely. All right.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, and see you soon. We'll end the recording and I'll take questions.